Captain Hyunwoo Park stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the stars through the massive viewscreen. The ship was enormous, stretching over 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its black hull was covered in weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Most alien species pretended ships like this didn't exist. They called them ghost ships because no one wanted to admit how deadly human warships had become. It had been 15 years since humanity first met other intelligent life in the galaxy. The meeting hadn't gone well. The aliens thought humans were weak and primitive. They were wrong. Very wrong. Hyunwoo's ship was part of Earth's ghost fleet, along with 2 other massive dreadnoughts. Captain So-Young Kim commanded the UES Vengeance, while Captain Dong-Min Lee led the UES Reckoning. Together, these 3 ships could fight an entire alien armada and win. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Lieutenant Bo-Ram Choi worked at her tactical station, monitoring space for threats. Communications Officer Min-ho Seo listened to radio signals from across the galaxy. Engineering Specialist Yoon-ji Park, Hyunwoo's younger sister, kept the ship's weapons and engines running perfectly. "Captain," Min-ho said suddenly, his voice tense, "I'm picking up something strange. It's a transmission on all frequencies." Hyunwoo walked over to the communications station. "What kind of transmission?" Min-ho adjusted his headset and frowned. "It's coming from the Villani system. The signal is desperate. They're broadcasting in over 40 different languages." The Villani were a peaceful species that looked like tall, graceful birds. They had no military and spent their time creating beautiful art and music. Most aliens liked them because they never caused trouble. "Put it on speakers," Hyunwoo ordered. The bridge filled with a haunting voice speaking in broken galactic standard. The translator worked to convert the words, but the emotion needed no translation. Fear. Desperation. The sound of a dying people. "This is Villani Prime calling anyone who will listen. The Kruath have come. They surround our world with hundreds of ships. Our cities are burning. Our children are hiding underground. Please, if anyone can hear this, we are the last of our kind. This is our final message to the stars." The transmission repeated, growing weaker each time. Then it stopped. The bridge was silent. Everyone knew about the Kruath Empire. They were savage warriors who conquered peaceful worlds and turned entire populations into slaves. They had been expanding across the galaxy for decades, and no one could stop them. "Sir," Bo-Ram said quietly. "That was a cry of the dying." Hyunwoo nodded grimly. A cry of the dying was the last desperate plea a species made before extinction. It was broadcast on all frequencies, hoping someone, anyone, would remember they once existed. The communication system crackled to life again. This time it was a secure channel from Earth. Advisor Tae Ho Shin's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and angry. "Captain Park, I assume you received the Villani transmission?" "Yes, sir." "What's the Federation's response?" Taeho's expression darkened. "The Galactic Federation Council met in emergency session 2 hours ago. They voted to do nothing. The Kruath fleet is too large, they say. The risk is too great. They've officially declared the Villani a lost cause." Hyunwoo felt anger building in his chest. This was typical of the Federation. They held endless meetings and made careful speeches while innocent people died. "Sir, with respect, that's unacceptable." "I agree, Captain. That's why I'm patching you through to Commander Ji-Won Yang at Earth Defense Command." The screen changed, showing a stern-faced woman with graying hair. Commander Yang had fought in the border wars and earned her position through courage and skill. "Not politics, Captain Park," she said without ceremony. "How long would it take the Ghost Fleet to reach Villani Prime?" 18 hours at maximum hyperspace velocity, ma'am." "Good. I'm authorizing immediate deployment. Launch the Ghost Fleet. If the Federation won't answer, Earth will." "Ma'am, intelligence reports suggest the Kruath have over 200 ships at Villani Prime. We only have 3. Commander Yang smiled coldly. "Captain, you're not commanding 3 ships. You're commanding 3 human ships. There's a difference. The channel closed." Hyunwoo looked around his bridge at his crew. These men and women had trained for years to fight alien threats. They used tactics that other species couldn't understand or counter. Where aliens saw honor in following ancient battle traditions, humans saw opportunities to win. "All hands prepare for hyperspace jump," Hyunwoo announced over the ship's communication system. "We have a rescue mission." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Unji began charging the hyperspace engines. Bo-Ram loaded tactical data about the Kruath fleet composition. Minho established secure communications with the Vengeance and Reckoning. Captain So-Young Kim's face appeared on one screen, Captain Dong-Min Lee's on another. Both looked ready for battle. "So we're going to fight 200 Creweth ships to save some bird people we barely know," So-Young said. "That's the mission," Hyun-woo replied. Dong-Min laughed. "Sounds like Tuesday. My crew is ready." "Mine too," So-Young added. "The Creweth think they're the galaxy's apex predators. Time to show them what real predators look like." The three ships moved into formation. Their black hulls seemed to absorb the starlight, making them nearly invisible against the void. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a planet, operated by crews trained in the most advanced military tactics humanity had developed. Hyperspace engines at full charge. Yoonji reported. "All ships report ready," Minho added. Hyun-woo sat in his captain's chair and looked at the stars one last time. Somewhere out there, an entire species was dying while the galaxy's government did nothing. But Earth remembered what it was like to face extinction. Humans had fought through their own dark history of war and suffering. They understood that sometimes the only way to stop evil was to fight. "Take us to hyperspace," he ordered. The stars stretched into lines of light as the 3 deadliest warships humanity had ever built jumped toward Volani Prime. They carried no official authority from the Galactic Federation. They had no backup if things went wrong. All they had was their training, their weapons, and their absolute refusal to let innocent people die without a fight. The Ghost Fleet was hunting. The 3 human ships moved through hyperspace like silent shadows. 18 hours after leaving their patrol zone, they were getting close to Volani Prime. Captain Hyun-woo Park stood in the war room with his senior officers, studying tactical displays. "The Creweth know something is coming," Lieutenant Bo-Ram Choi reported. "Our long-range sensors are picking up a hunting pack moving to intercept us." The display showed 20 Creweth heavy cruisers arranged in a standard formation. Each ship was massive, built for overwhelming enemy vessels through superior firepower and thick armor. Against most opponents, 20 Creweth warships would be certain victory. "They're following Protocol 7, Bo-Ram continued, reading from her analysis. "Classic intercept formation. They'll try to surround us and destroy us with concentrated fire." Engineering specialist Eunji Park looked up from her station. "Brother, the Creweth ships are powerful, but they're old. Their technology is at least 50 years behind ours." Hyun-woo nodded. The Creweth Empire was ancient and set in its ways. They built their ships the same way for centuries and used the same battle tactics their ancestors had perfected against other traditional civilizations. Humans were not a traditional civilization. Communications Officer Minho so interrupted their planning. "Captain, I'm receiving a message from the lead Creweth vessel." "Put it through," Hyun-woo ordered. The view screen showed a reptilian creature with scarred hide and cold yellow eyes. This was War Captain Vexus Tar, one of the most feared Creweth commanders. He had conquered 12 worlds and enslaved millions of beings. "Unknown vessels," Vextar hissed in broken galactic standard. "You approach Creweth territory without permission. Identify yourselves or be destroyed." Hyun-woo stepped forward. "This is Captain Park of the Earth Defense Force. We're responding to a distress call from Volani Prime." Vextar's eyes narrowed. "Humans, I have heard of your species. Small, weak creatures who think they understand warfare. Turn back now, or I will add your ships to my trophy collection." "I appreciate the warning," Hyun-woo replied calmly. "But we're going to have to decline." The Creweth commander showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. "So be it. You will learn why the galaxy fears the Creweth." The channel closed. Hyun-woo looked around at his officers. They all had the same expression, the cold focus that came before battle. "All right, everyone knows the plan. We don't fight like they expect. We don't fight fair. We fight to win." The Ghost Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of an asteroid field left over from an ancient planet collision. The Creweth hunting pack was waiting for them, spread out in perfect formation. Captain So-Young Kim's voice came through the communications system from the Vengeance. 20 ships in standard battle formation. They're not even trying to be creative. Captain Dong-Min Lee added from the Reckoning. "Look at how they're positioned. They're following the same patterns we studied at the military academy. These aliens have been fighting the same way for thousands of years." "That's their weakness," Hyun-woo said. "Bo-Ram, begin electronic warfare protocols. Minho, start broadcasting on all Creweth frequencies." "What should I broadcast, sir?" Hyun-woo smiled grimly. "Something they've never heard before. Play them some human music. Death metal should work. The human ships moved into the asteroid field as bone-crushing guitar riffs and screaming vocals filled the Kruath communication channels. The aliens had never experienced anything like human music. The chaotic sound was designed to be aggressive and intimidating. War Captain Vextar was confused. His prey wasn't running or trying to negotiate. Instead, they were hiding among the asteroids and playing horrible sounds that hurt his ears. This wasn't how space battles were supposed to work. All ships advance in formation, he ordered. Flush them out of the rocks. The Kruath ships moved forward in perfect lines, just like their training manuals instructed. This was their first mistake. The UES Retribution appeared from behind a massive asteroid and fired a spread of kinetic projectiles at near light speed. The tungsten rods hit 3 Kruath cruisers before their sensors could track the incoming rounds. 2 ships exploded immediately. The third lost half its hull and went spinning into an asteroid. Before the Kruath could respond, the Retribution disappeared back into the asteroid field. What just happened? Vextar demanded. His tactical officer was staring at his instruments in confusion. Sir, they're using solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. No energy signature, no guidance systems, just chunks of metal moving at impossible velocities. This was human warfare. Where aliens used energy weapons that could be detected and countered, humans fired simple metal rods so fast that they hit before enemy sensors could track them. The Vengeance struck next, appearing on the hunting pack's flank. Captain So-Young Kim's ship launched a swarm of missiles that split apart as they flew, each one becoming dozens of smaller warheads. The Kruath point defense systems were designed to stop large missiles, not clouds of tiny explosives. 4 more Kruath ships took heavy damage before the Vengeance vanished back into the asteroids. War Captain Vextar was starting to understand that he was fighting something completely different from any enemy he'd faced before. These humans didn't follow the rules of civilized warfare. They used the battlefield environment, attacked from unexpected angles, and employed weapons that his systems couldn't properly track. All ships, retreat to safe distance, he ordered. Reform and prepare for coordinated assault. This was his second mistake. As the Kruath ships pulled back into open space, the reckoning was waiting. Captain Dongmin Lee had predicted exactly where they would retreat to. His ship emerged from the asteroid field's shadow and opened fire with its main guns. The concentrated beam weapons cut through 3 Kruath cruisers like a sword through paper. But this time, the human ship didn't retreat. It stayed and fought, dancing between enemy fire with impossible agility. Chief Engineer Wu Jin Han was coordinating the Vengeance's damage control when a Kruath plasma bolt broke through their shields. The explosion threw him across the engine room and into a bulkhead. He died instantly, but his sacrifice allowed the ship to keep fighting. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 18 Kruath ships were destroyed or disabled. Only 2 managed to escape, their hulls scarred and their crews traumatized. The human losses were minimal. Some damaged hull plating, burned out weapons, and 1 good man who would never go home. War Captain Vextar was aboard one of the surviving ships, trying to understand what had happened. His hunting pack had been destroyed by only 3 enemy vessels, using tactics that made no sense according to everything he knew about space combat. Send a message to Admiral Morketh at Valani Prime, he ordered his communications officer. Tell him we have encountered something new, something dangerous. These humans fight like demons. The 2 battered Kruath ships limped toward their main fleet, carrying news that would soon spread throughout their empire. Earth's deadliest warships had announced their arrival in the most direct way possible. The Ghost Fleet continued toward Valani Prime, leaving behind a field of debris and the galaxy's first glimpse of what human warfare really looked like. Valani Prime hung in space like a wounded bird. The beautiful blue-green world that had once been home to billions of peaceful beings was now covered in smoke and fire. Massive explosions lit up the planet's surface as Kruath bombardment ships continued their systematic destruction. Captain Hyun Woo Park watched the horror through the Retribution's view screen as his ship approached the Valani system. 237 Kruath warships surrounded the planet in a perfect siege formation. They had been bombing the surface for weeks, destroying cities and forcing the surviving population underground. Sensors showed 12 Valani defense ships still fighting, Lieutenant Boram Choi reported from her tactical station. They're hiding in the planet's upper atmosphere using the cloud cover for protection. The Volani Defense Force was incredibly brave but hopelessly outgunned. Their ships were designed for exploration and scientific research, not warfare. Against the massive Kruath fleet, they were like insects fighting eagles. "I'm picking up a human signature among the Volani ships," Communications Officer Minho Seo said with surprise. "Admiral Q Hyun-Oh is down there." Hyun-Woo knew that name. Admiral Oh was a military advisor who had volunteered to help train Volani security forces. When the Kruath attacked, he could have evacuated with the other off-world humans. Instead, he chose to stay and fight alongside his alien friends. "Get me a channel to Admiral Oh," Hyun-Woo ordered. The view screen showed a man in his 50s wearing a battered Volani military uniform. Behind him, the bridge of his small frigate shook from explosions. Smoke filled the air and sparks flew from damaged control panels. "Captain Park," Admiral O said, his voice tired but determined. "I wasn't expecting to see Earthships out here." "We heard the distress call, sir." "What's the situation?" "Bad and getting worse. The Kruath have been bombing population centers for 3 weeks. Most of the major cities are gone. We've got maybe 2 million Volani left, all hiding in underground shelters. My ships are running on fumes and prayers. How long can you hold out?" Admiral O looked at his instruments and shook his head. "Maybe 6 hours before we're completely out of ammunition. After that, the Kruath will start landing ground troops. The Volani don't have any weapons to fight them with." The channel switched to show Admiral Morketh, the Kruath commander leading the siege. He was even larger and more scarred than War Captain Vextar. With cybernetic implants covering half his skull, he had conquered more worlds than any other Kruath in history. "Human vessels." Morketh's voice boomed across all frequencies. "You are outnumbered 79 to 1. Surrender now and I will allow you to watch as I complete my conquest of this world. Captain So Young." Kim's voice came through the Ghost Fleet's private channel. 79 to 1? That hardly seems fair." "You're right," Captain Dongmin Lee replied from the Reckoning. "We should have brought more Kruath." Hyun-Woo studied the enemy formation on his tactical display. The Kruath ships were arranged in 3 massive rings around Volani Prime. The outer ring contained their heavy battleships and bombardment vessels. The middle ring held their cruisers and destroyers. The inner ring was made up of troop transports and supply ships. It was a textbook siege formation, designed to completely surround and isolate an enemy. Against conventional opponents, it was nearly unbeatable, but humans didn't fight conventionally. "Yoon-ji," Hyun-Woo said to his sister at the engineering station. "Can you give me full stealth capability?" "For about 40 minutes, engineering specialist Yoon-ji Park replied. "After that, our power systems will need to recharge. That should be enough. Boram, I want targeting solutions for every Kruath command ship. Minho, prepare electronic warfare packages." The 3 human ships split up and approached Volani Prime from different directions. Their stealth systems made them nearly invisible to enemy sensors, appearing only as small asteroids or sensor ghosts. Admiral Morketh was confident in his overwhelming superiority. His scouts had reported that only 3 human ships were approaching. Even if these were the same vessels that had destroyed War Captain Vextar's hunting pack, 3 ships could not possibly threaten a fleet of over 200. The Kruath admiral was about to learn why human military doctrine emphasized speed, stealth, and precision over raw numbers. The attack began with the UES Reckoning appearing directly above the Kruath fleet's command cluster. Captain Dongmin Lee's ship fired its main weapons at point-blank range, destroying Admiral Morketh's flagship and 2 escort vessels before disappearing back into the void. Chaos erupted throughout the Kruath formation. Without their primary command ship, the various fleet groups began operating independently, following different tactical protocols and getting in each other's way. The vengeance struck next, hitting the siege array that was bombarding Volani Prime. Captain So-Young Kim's missiles destroyed the massive bombardment platforms, ending the attacks on the planet's surface for the first time in weeks. The Retribution appeared in the middle of the Kruath fleet's supply convoy, destroying fuel ships and ammunition carriers. Without supplies, the massive enemy fleet would be stranded in the Volani system. "All ships, emergency formation," shouted Vice Admiral Colrex, who had taken command after Morketh's death. "Converge on the human vessels." But the human ships were never where the Kruath expected them to be. They appeared from unexpected angles, struck with devastating precision, then vanished before the enemy could respond. It was like fighting ghosts. The battle became a masterpiece of asymmetric warfare. The Kruath had more ships, heavier armor, and larger weapons, but the humans had better tactics, superior technology, and the element of surprise. Admiral Q Hyun O watched from his position in Valani Prime's upper atmosphere as the mighty Kruath siege fleet began to fall apart. Enemy ships collided with each other as they tried to respond to attacks from all directions. Others fired wildly into empty space, hitting their own vessels by mistake. "I've never seen anything like this," he reported to the Ghost Fleet. "You're tearing them apart." "That's the plan," Hyunwoo replied as the Retribution destroyed another group of Kruath cruisers. "These aliens think warfare is about having the biggest fleet. They don't understand that the best weapon is a thinking mind." After 3 hours of systematic destruction, Vice Admiral Kulrex realized his position was hopeless. Over half his fleet was destroyed or disabled. His remaining ships were scattered and confused. He needed to retreat and regroup. "All surviving vessels," he broadcast, "withdraw to hyperspace coordinate 77 Alpha. We will return with reinforcements." But as the Kruath ships moved toward the system's edge, they discovered that the humans had been busy. The hyperspace exit points were surrounded by mines and automated weapon platforms. The Ghost Fleet had turned the Valani system into a trap. The Kruath could enter, but they could not leave. "This is impossible," Kulrex muttered as his ships tried to find a safe hyperspace jump point. How did 3 ships deploy so many mines? The answer was simple. Human ships carried more than just weapons. They carried manufacturing equipment, automated drones, and the ability to build whatever they needed from local materials. While the Kruath were focused on the main battle, human machines had been working throughout the system. One by one, the surviving Kruath ships were hunted down and destroyed. Those that tried to surrender were accepted, but their crews were placed under arrest for war crimes committed on dozens of conquered worlds. As the sun rose over Valani Prime for the first time in weeks without the shadow of enemy bombardment, the surviving population began emerging from their underground shelters. The sky was clear of Kruath ships, filled instead with the sleek forms of human rescue vessels. Admiral Q Hyun-Oh's voice came through the communication system, filled with emotion. "Valani Prime is free. The siege is broken." Captain Hyunwoo looked at the rescued world and felt a deep satisfaction, but he also knew this was just the beginning. The Kruath Empire was vast, and they would not forget this defeat. The Ghost Fleet had announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. Now everyone would know that Earth's deadliest warships were ready to answer any cry for help that echoed to the stars. 3 days after the battle at Valani Prime, the Ghost Fleet was hunting. Captain Hyunwoo Park stood in the Retribution's intelligence center, studying captured Kruath data files. What he found there made his blood run cold. Communications Officer Minho Seo had intercepted enemy transmissions during the siege. The decoded messages revealed the locations of slave camps on 3 different worlds. Millions of beings from dozens of species were being worked to death in Kruath mining operations. "Captain," Lieutenant Bo-Ram Choi said from her station, "long-range sensors detect Kruath ships fleeing toward their stronghold system. They're probably carrying reports of our attack." Hyunwoo studied the tactical display showing the enemy retreat. The surviving Kruath vessels were heading straight for Kethmora Prime, the heart of their local empire. It was heavily defended by orbital fortresses and ground-based weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Most military commanders would have been satisfied with saving Valani Prime. The mission was complete. The innocent were safe, and pursuing the enemy into their stronghold would be extremely dangerous. But humans had their own history with slavery. It was a dark chapter that had taken centuries to overcome, leaving scars that still influenced human thinking. When faced with species that enslaved others, humanity's response was not measured or diplomatic, it was absolute. "All ships, set course for Kethmora Prime," Hyunwoo announced over the fleet communication system. "We're going to finish this." Captain So-Young Kim's face appeared on the view screen from the Vengeance. "Captain, intelligence reports show at least 50 Kruath warships defending that system, plus orbital fortresses." "I know," Hyunwoo replied. "But there are slave camps down there. Children are dying in those mines while we debate tactical considerations." Captain Dongmin Lee joined the conversation from the Reckoning. "The crew is ready, sir. We didn't come all this way to do half a job." Engineering specialist Yoonji Park looked up from her station. "Brother, I've been analyzing the captured Kruath technology. Their orbital defenses are impressive, But they have a weakness. She brought up a technical display showing the enemy fortress designs. They're built to defend against massive fleet attacks. All their weapons are designed to destroy large targets at long range. They're not prepared for small, fast attackers. This gave Hyunwoo an idea. Human ships could separate into smaller attack modules during combat. It was a feature that most alien species didn't use because they preferred to keep their ships intact. But humans were willing to take risks that others wouldn't. The Ghost Fleet reached Kethmora Prime 12 hours later. The system was a fortress, with massive space stations surrounding the planet like metal moons. Each station had enough firepower to destroy a conventional fleet. Admiral Zekthar commanded the system defenses from the largest orbital fortress. He had received reports about the human attack on Volani Prime, but he couldn't believe that 3 ships had destroyed over 200 Crewith vessels. It had to be exaggerated. Human ships approaching on attack vector, his tactical officer reported. Only 3 vessels? Admiral Zekthar asked. Yes, sir. The same ships that attacked our siege fleet. Zekthar studied the approaching contacts on his display. 3 ships against an entire fortress system. Either these humans were incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. All stations, prepare to demonstrate why no one attacks Crewth strongholds, he ordered. The human ships approached the outer defense perimeter and suddenly split apart. Each vessel separated into multiple smaller craft, turning 3 ships into 24 independent attack units. The Crewth had never seen anything like it. What are they doing? Zekthar demanded. His sensors were confused. The enemy force had just multiplied by 8, and each new contact was too small for the fortress weapons to target effectively. The massive defense guns were designed to destroy battleships, not tiny fighters. The human attack modules swarmed through the Crewth defenses like angry wasps. They were too small and fast for the orbital fortresses to hit, but they carried enough firepower to damage critical systems. Marine Colonel Hairin Jang commanded the ground assault forces aboard one of the attack modules. She had trained for years to fight alien opponents in hostile environments. Today, she would lead the first human ground attack against an alien fortress world. Colonel, we've identified the primary slave camp, came the report from her intelligence officer. It's located in the planet's northern mining region. Estimated 10,000 prisoners from various species. Understood. Prep the Marines for combat drop. The attack modules that weren't engaging the orbital defenses dove toward the planet's surface. Crewth ground forces were scrambling to respond, but they had never faced human infantry tactics. Colonel Jang's Marines landed near the slave camp and immediately began their assault. The Crewth guards were expecting conventional attackers who would advance in organized formations. Instead, they faced human soldiers who moved like shadows, used the terrain for cover, and employed weapons the aliens had never seen before. What are these creatures? One Crewth guard radioed in panic as human soldiers seemed to appear from nowhere, striking with deadly precision before vanishing again. The liberation of the slave camps revealed the true horror of the Crewth Empire. Thousands of beings from dozens of different species were being worked to death in conditions that violated every galactic law about prisoner treatment. Many were children who had never known freedom. Fleet psychologist Su-Bin Kang was among the first medical personnel to reach the liberated prisoners. She had studied the psychological effects of slavery and knew how to help traumatized beings recover, but even she was shocked by what she found. Captain, she reported to Hyunwoo over the communication system, these conditions are worse than anything in our historical records. Some of these people have been enslaved for generations. They don't even remember their home worlds. This information spread quickly through the human fleet. Every crew member learned about the horrors they were fighting against. It strengthened their resolve and explained why Earth responded so violently to slavers. Humans had their own dark history with slavery. For centuries, human beings had bought and sold other human beings like property. The struggle to end that system had cost millions of lives and left deep scars on human civilization. When modern humans encountered aliens who practiced slavery, it triggered ancient memories of suffering and injustice. All units, continue liberation operations, Hyunwoo ordered. No Crewth facility that houses slaves is to be left standing. The battle for Kethmora Prime lasted 2 days. When it was over, the orbital defenses were destroyed. The Crewth fleet was scattered, and over 50,000 slaves from dozens of species had been freed. But something unexpected happened as news of the liberation spread across the galaxy. Other oppressed species began sending their own distress calls specifically to Earth. bypassing the ineffective Galactic Federation entirely. Captain, Minho reported from his communication station, we're receiving desperate messages from 17 different star systems. They're all asking for human help against various threats. The view screen showed a parade of alien faces, each one pleading for assistance. There were mining colonies under attack by pirates, peaceful worlds threatened by aggressive neighbors, and more slave camps that needed liberation. The Galactic Federation watched these developments with growing alarm. For thousands of years, they had maintained order through careful diplomacy and measured responses. Now humanity was changing the rules, responding to threats with direct action instead of endless committee meetings. But the species that Earth had rescued didn't care about Federation protocols. They cared about results. And humanity was delivering results. Captain Hyunwoo looked at the flood of distress calls coming in from across the galaxy. Each one represented suffering beings who needed help. The Ghost Fleet was only 3 ships, but they had proven that sometimes 3 ships with the right tactics and moral conviction could accomplish more than entire traditional fleets. Minho, record a message for broadcast on all frequencies, he ordered. Yes, sir. What should it say? Hyunwoo thought for a moment, then spoke with quiet determination. Earth has heard your calls for help. We cannot promise to save everyone, but we promise that no cry for help will go unanswered. If slavers threaten your people, if pirates attack your worlds, if anyone tries to destroy what you've built, send us your coordinates. The Ghost Fleet is listening. The message went out across the galaxy, carrying hope to species that had given up on finding help. Earth's deadliest warships had become something no one expected. The galaxy's protectors of the innocent. 6 months after the liberation of Kethamora Prime, Captain Hyunwoo Park stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the UES Defiance. The massive Titan-class dreadnought was twice the size of his old ship, built specifically to coordinate Earth's growing fleet of Guardian vessels. What had started as 3 ships had grown into 12. The Ghost Fleet now included vessels commanded by veterans of the Kruath campaign, each crew trained in the tactics that had made humanity feared and respected across the galaxy. First Officer Nayoung Lim worked at the coordination station, managing reports from human forces spread across 17 different star systems. Each location had the same story: local threats eliminated, innocent lives saved, and grateful populations singing Earth's praises. Captain, Communications Officer Minho Seo reported, we have another priority distress call. Pirates are attacking the trade routes near the Spiral Arm Junction. 3 merchant convoys are trapped. Before Hyunwoo could respond, another report came in. Sir, we also have a situation in the Outer Rim. A species called the Nethaki is being invaded by their neighbors. They're requesting immediate assistance. And there's an urgent message from the Centauri colony, added Lieutenant Boram Choi from her tactical station. Unknown attackers are bombarding their agricultural stations. This was the new reality. Earth's military forces were in constant demand, racing from crisis to crisis across the galaxy. The Galactic Federation's slow diplomatic processes couldn't keep up with the speed at which emergencies developed. The Federation Council was not happy about this situation. President Zilthera of the Galactic Federation appeared on the main view screen, her blue-scaled face showing obvious frustration. She led a species of ancient diplomats who believed that all conflicts could be resolved through careful negotiation. Captain Park, she said with barely controlled anger, humanity's aggressive expansion must stop. You have violated territorial boundaries, attacked sovereign governments, and disrupted the established order of galactic politics. Hyunwoo remained calm. Madam President, we have responded to legitimate distress calls from species asking for help. Every action we've taken has been in defense of innocent lives. That is not for Earth to decide unilaterally. The Federation has protocols for handling interstellar conflicts. Your protocols take months to implement, Hyunwoo replied. By the time your committees finish debating, entire populations are dead or enslaved. President Zilthera's expression hardened. The Federation Council is voting next week to officially censure Earth for its unauthorized military activities. We may also impose sanctions. Before Hyunwoo could respond, the view screen changed to show 17 different alien faces, representatives from every species that humanity had rescued. They had demanded to speak at the Federation Council meeting. Elder Velthera of the Valani spoke first, her bird-like features showing deep emotion. President Zilthara, when the Kruath came to destroy our world, the Federation declared us a lost cause. It was humans who answered our cry for help. It was humans who saved our children. Captain Mordak of the liberated Cathani added his voice. My people were slaves for 3 generations. The Federation knew about our situation but did nothing. Humans freed us and helped us rebuild our civilization. One by one, each rescued species told their story. They spoke of Federation inaction and human heroism. They talked about watching their worlds burn while diplomats held endless meetings, then seeing Earth's warships arrive like avenging angels. The political pressure was overwhelming. President Zilthara found herself facing 17 worlds that would withdraw from the Federation if Earth was sanctioned. But the situation became even more complicated when an unexpected visitor arrived at the Federation Council meeting. Admiral Kent of the Eternal Hegemony materialized on the council floor in a shimmer of advanced transporter technology. The hegemony was the oldest and most powerful civilization in the galaxy. They rarely interfered in the affairs of younger species. The ancient being looked like a tall, graceful humanoid made of crystalline energy. When Admiral Kuenth spoke, reality itself seemed to listen. I have observed humanity's recent activities with great interest, the Admiral said in a voice that resonated with cosmic authority. The hegemony wishes to conduct a formal evaluation of Earth's military capabilities and intentions. This was unprecedented. The Eternal Hegemony hadn't evaluated a new species in over 10,000 years. Whatever they decided would determine humanity's place in the galactic order. Admiral Kuenth requested to observe human forces in action. The opportunity came when pirates attacked a trade convoy near the Spiral Arm Junction. The criminals were using stolen military vessels and advanced weapons, making them too dangerous for conventional security forces. Yunwu's fleet responded to the distress call with Admiral Kuenth aboard the Defiance as an observer. The ancient being watched with intense interest as human ships moved into formation. Fascinating, Admiral Kuenth commented as the Ghost Fleet approached the battle zone. Your tactical doctrine emphasizes adaptation and unpredictability over conventional force projection. The pirates had expected a standard security response, a few patrol ships that they could easily outfight. Instead, they found themselves facing humanity's most advanced warships operated by crews with real combat experience. The battle was brief and decisive. Human ships used their superior tactics and technology to neutralize the pirate threat without destroying a single merchant vessel. The criminals were captured alive, their stolen ships recovered intact. But what impressed Admiral Kuenth the most wasn't the military victory. It was what happened afterward. Chief Medical Officer Jae-Hyun Ryu was treating wounded civilians from the merchant convoy when Admiral Kuenth approached him. The ancient being observed as human doctors worked alongside alien medics to save lives. Doctor, Admiral Kuenth said, explain your species' approach to warfare. Dr. Ryu looked up from the patient he was treating, a young alien child injured in the pirate attack. We don't fight to conquer or dominate, Admiral. We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The galaxy is vast and dark. Someone has to keep the lights on. This simple statement had a profound impact on the hegemony representative. Admiral Kuenth had observed countless species throughout galactic history. Most young civilizations fought for territory, resources, or glory. Humans fought for an ideal. The evaluation continued for several weeks as Admiral Kuenth observed human forces responding to various crises. Each time, the pattern was the same. Earth ships arrived quickly, solved the problem efficiently, then helped the affected populations rebuild. When the evaluation was complete, Admiral Kuenth returned to the Eternal Hegemony with a recommendation that shocked the galaxy. The ancient being appeared before the Hegemony Council and made a formal proposal. I recommend that humanity be granted the status of Guardians of the Void, official protectors of innocent life throughout the galaxy. This was a position that hadn't existed for millions of years. The last species to hold such authority had disappeared long before current galactic civilizations developed space travel. The title came with enormous responsibility. Guardian species were authorized to respond to threats anywhere in the galaxy, but they were also obligated to protect all sentient life regardless of politics or territorial boundaries. Captain Hyun-woo, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, received the news aboard the Defiance. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy, as Admiral Quenth formally invested Earth with guardian authority. By the ancient laws of the hegemony, the crystalline being declared, humanity is hereby recognized as the guardians of the void. May you carry this responsibility with wisdom and courage. The celebration was brief. Even as the ceremony concluded, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. 17 different crisis situations needed immediate attention. Pirate attacks, slave raids, natural disasters, and conflicts between aggressive species. Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo looked at the tactical display showing human ships scattered across the galaxy. Each vessel was racing toward a different emergency, carrying hope to beings who had given up on finding help. All ships, he announced over the fleet communication system, prepare for hyperspace jumps. Multiple destinations, maximum priority. The galaxy has called for help, and Earth will answer. Dozens of human warships activated their hyperspace engines simultaneously. They jumped toward scattered stars where innocent beings faced danger, carrying the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built in the simple promise that no cry for help would go unanswered. The Ghost Fleet had evolved into something greater, a guardian force that watched over the galaxy's innocent populations. They were no longer just Earth's deadliest warships. They were the galaxy's hope made real. In the depths of space, where darkness threatened to swallow entire civilizations, humanity's ships moved like points of light. They brought safety to the frightened, freedom to the enslaved, and justice to those who preyed upon the weak. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, knowing that somewhere in the void, Earth's guardians were listening for the next cry that would echo across the cosmos.